Welcome to Lattes and Art, presented by J Squared Atelier, where we explore the rich and transformative world of art, one story at a time. I'm James William Moore, your host, and on today's episode, The Art of Truth, we look at the heart of an artist's journey as they explore the relentless pursuit of honesty and show of courage to confront and reveal genuine truths through creative expression. Joining us is Sydney Brown, an artist based in the San Francisco Bay Area, known for her vibrant, immersive work, which merges everyday objects with deeply personal narratives. Sydney's practice, which spans sculpture and installation, transforms familiar items into symbols of memory and personal history. Together, we'll discuss the cyclical process of learning and growth, where artists revisit familiar themes, evolving with each piece they create. Now, pour yourself a cappuccino and sit back and enjoy the conversation. Sydney, thank you so much for coming here today and opening up and talking to us. For those that don't know you, could you give us just a little introduction of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me here. What a treat. I am an artist, mother, daughter, wife. I feel mostly drawn to sculpture and three-dimensional things, although I do some 2D work, but metal and paper, soft things, mixed media. I kind of love anything that is really hard and takes a long time. Lots of labor involved.
The labor of love.
All of it.
Let's just jump right into that. You mentioned your titles in your home and you and who you are. Mm-hmm. And then you step into these materials and you talk about paper and other things. And some of them tend to be sought as female, women art sort of medium. Is that on purpose?
That's a good question. I think that I come at materials for lots of different reasons. So sometimes it's super practical. Like when I was pregnant, I couldn't work with my sort of most comfortable materials or most known materials, which would be metal. I couldn't do the same things I was doing. I couldn't weld. It was toxic and unsafe. And that was true even when I was trying to get pregnant. So I sort of thoughtfully switched to softer, safer things. But then I like to swing to the really traditionally masculine things. Like I got a degree in structural welding, and I think part of that was driven by really liking to walk the line and the tension between what people think is normal or common and what they are surprised by. I like surprising myself, and I like to see the looks on people's faces when I'm like, yeah, I could weld a pipeline, if I wanted.
More than I could.
Yeah.
As you were doing these things, and for example, when you were working through the softer materials while you were pregnant, the conversation we're having today with you is about art and truth. And there's something about your work that is inherently always about you and your own truth. How did that play into working with those softer fabrics and being pregnant at that time?
When I was pregnant and trying to get pregnant, so grappling with fertility things or death at the same time, those things I think come hand in hand, for me at least, really regularly. And trying to have babies also made me think about my mother and her family, and so both where I came from and where I'm going, and will there be somebody to tell my stories to, and will they want to keep telling stories? I think it was easy for me to float into the softer materials when thinking about my mom and her family, because it brought up traditional forms of making, to think of women in the past when it was really not that accessible for them to work in anything else. So my grandmother was a milliner, and my mom would say she's not creative at all, but she definitely is, and worked with her hands in all kinds of ways. And then I was able to swing to other materials when thinking about my dad's side of the family, telling their stories.
through this, you're pursuing a truth about you, your history, your ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Totally. Yes. Like, I have always believed that we will live life differently and most likely better, more honestly, more authentically, if we know really fully where we've come from. And my own mom lost a lot of information with the death of her mother and like sort of succession of women in her life that kept that information from her or threw the information away so that she couldn't find it. And so it became really important to me to like try to dig down and get in contact with family members or old stories directly from my mom in order to like do some record keeping for my family and for myself.
As you're going through that, you just mentioned how family members destroyed record, historical record. And, generationally, we pass this information along. With what you have found, with what you have discovered, with what you have recommunicated with these people, how do you find it if it's your truth or not? In other words, because those records aren't there, how do you move forward with that, I guess?
Do you mean like, how do I find the answers if the records are gone?
Yeah.
Well, so a lot of information, sort of like oral storytelling before things were written, right? Or before like that was important to people to write it, they were telling it, right? And I just kind of like shifted my attention and drive towards getting my mom to tell me more stuff and like recording her talking to me so that I wouldn't lose the information. And most of the time she would tell the story the same way. So I trusted that it was accurate to her memory. And that's like the best I could do, right? And then the way that I work is so like from the guts. It became really comfortable and normal for me to like feel more details into a story. So I would rhythmically repeat something she'd said to me, and something like another sentence would follow it that she didn't say, but that became the truth for me, like how it made me feel, or what it made me worry about, or what it made me grieve for her, even if she hadn't thought to say, like, this moment was full of grief for me. I would retell the story to myself while like stitching words on a bandage, and notice that as I'm doing that, like I'm feeling the grief that I'm certain she felt as a 12-year-old, but just didn't think to retell it that way when she told it to me. So then the truth gets billowy and bigger, and I don't know. I think it becomes a fuller truth because we're related. It's both of our stories now.
And it's interesting too because it was your mom or your grandmother that was a millenary?
It was my great grandmother, so her grandmother.
Okay, so there is historically this thing, because you're talking about stitching.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that's generational in your family, and now you're getting some of this story, this background.
Yep.
And you're experiencing it as told by your mom. Mm-hmm. Do you feel safe in sharing those stories through the art that you're making?
Meaning, like, do I feel... I'm thinking safe in a couple of different ways. So do you mean it like...
I guess safe is a bad word. Do you feel that it's healing? Because there's this thing, right? There's this idea that motherhood, we get hugs. Mm-hmm. And there's a safety in that. But there's also a healing because you're talking about things that happened in the past that family members didn't want to know. Mm-hmm. You to know, your mother to know. Is this helping heal some of that truth that's in your art?
Yeah. Yes, I believe it is. I mean, that was a goal for me. So I spent many, many years in therapy. And before I was in therapy, I did similar like confessional work that really was not good for my mental health. Like I would drudge up a bunch of stuff and have nowhere to put it because I had no tools for that, like how to then contain it and deal with it and put it in a different spot. So I would just kind of sit in the shit, and it was like really sad. But after getting lots of, good learning around containing and healing and ritualizing things and compartmentalizing in healthy ways, now I came to that work about my mom and her family and like lots of traumas with a totally different insight about like not drudging things up, but shedding light on things for like lots of purposes. But one of the things that I really felt strongly about is I could see in all of my siblings fears specifically and phobias or anxieties. Maybe fears and anxieties would be like the most to the point words that like didn't really come from things we experienced. They didn't make a whole lot of sense for who we are or like our own direct childhood. And it was very clear that it came from my mother's untreated traumas. Like no matter how hard she tried, she was an incredible mother. She's still an incredible mother, very loving, very nurturing, and like full of flaws, right? Like we just are all full of flaws, and noticing that we're all like afraid of drowning. But why? Like none of us had really big, scary drowning incidents in our life. There was several things like that we all kind of carried around with us. And I just thought, like, I want her to be free of that, but I also want all of us to be free of that. Like, and if we can't get over it, like we're too old or whatever, then I want to do the work to like notice those things and help all of my siblings' children and like their children or the ones they love to be free of those things. Like, I really think that having the information is half of the battle of getting through something. If you don't recognize that you have the problem, how are you ever going to solve it?
Right?
You have to see the problem. Somebody has to say
admit
you have a problem.
Yes. So your family members, how are they receiving this work that you're doing? Are they seeing the truth that you see in this?
I come from a really polite and loving family. So nobody has been negative or expressed that they're offended. My mom, I think, really loves that I'm trying to hold on to information for her. I think everybody appreciates it. I think most of my siblings would say, like, that sounds like hard work, and maybe not everybody wants to do that, And I've only heard, like, loving, touched reflection, like, that's really special that you're doing that kind of stuff.
When we were getting ready to get together, and I threw out some ideas for you that we might talk about, and it's incredible that what you've set up to this point kind of takes us through this process. And it's step by step, and there's this growth that's occurring as this truth becomes stronger and more realized through the artworks. Are you feeling that growth exists, or are you still trying to find it?
Like, do I feel like the healing is happening, that the moving forward is happening?
Yeah.
Generationally, whatever.
Because we can put those words out there. Like,
yeah.
You commented that, this is going on. But do you feel that more than just those words?
Yeah. I mean, I can say that I feel it personally. Yeah, I do. And I see it in my relationship with my mom. Like, I think there's something really magical about diving into her stories and then having to separate myself from her story. Luckily, I was like in a lot of therapy when I started that project too, all about my mom. And so I was able to like go into appointments and say what I was working on and have somebody be like, are you sure you want to do that? That doesn't sound like yours. It sounds like you're doing somebody else's work. And I could be like, well, I kind of am, like, energetically, but it affects me and it affects my children. So it matters. And I don't care if she can't do it. And maybe she is doing it.
I was going to say, it is your work for your own self. This is your truth.
Totally.
Right? That's what we're talking about. Your truth.
Yeah.
You're finding this. You're discovering it. You are processing through these things.
Totally. I think that there's of course a whole bunch of importance to me around like it being my mother's story, right? And really everything. I think we've said this before, but everything I do, the only way I feel like I can stand behind it is if I feel like I really know it. So it has to be mine at some point, right? But the reason that that even works for me and doesn't make me feel like a weird, super self-centered person is that I just know that most everything I'm experiencing is experienced by so many other people. And at points in my life where I've felt really isolated, coming into like new realizations about myself, or needing to change how my family sees me, or how my lover sees me, or how my kid sees me, or something, those can be really isolating moments and really sad or lonely or scary. And I have just a goal of trying to help other people not feel that way, if there's a way for that to be true, you know?
Well, it's kind of cool. As you're helping yourself, right, and you're putting this art out into the world, it's not as if you're just making it in a studio and it never sees the light of day. You're putting it into shows. It's being hung on walls for people to come in and observe. You're sharing that out, that people have a chance to relate to it and see that their truth is your truth.
Right. Reflection.
Yeah.
Like, that's the goal, right? That people see themselves that we see ourselves in each other, so that we feel less alone in the world.
Would like to think we all have empathy.
Yeah.
And then we start to realize that some of us have forgotten how to be empathetic. And then, you know, I don't want to use the word confronted, but I then look at work like yours. And I've had the privilege to talk with you at length about many of these pieces. And it's not something that's my background. It's not my world. But I can understand through how you have told it. And it gives me a chance to be reminded of the empathy that we need to have for one another, because we may not know what they're going through.
Totally. Yeah. I think being incredibly vulnerable in front of others is like really disarming. I think it's a good way to live in the world. I've just always believed that, whether it's in art or some other form. And that is definitely a family trait. Like, really painfully honest, but like with so much love and lots of empathy, like to a fault.
Would you say that you're embracing the discomfort?
For sure. Yeah. Yes. In fact, if it's not uncomfortable, I'm not that interested. Isn't that funny?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't, and I don't know if that's a problem. It might be a problem, but I am bored by my work if I'm not a little bit naked or a little bit scared of what I'm saying or a little bit too vulnerable. Like, I don't know what that is in me, but if I feel like I'll catch myself in something not quite saying the whole truth, and I have to like go back and do it over again. I have to go like, oh no, that's not actually what happened. Like, this is actually what happened. It's way more uncomfortable than what you just said. It's way less cute. It's way less pretty. It's way less palatable.
Well, and I think too that you embrace with your work that confrontation, sort of, right? You're not, I use humor. You don't. Yours is this, you know, gut-wrenching is appropriate with some of it, because it's moving, it's real, it's true, it's who you are, it's your background, and you didn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
You have left it there for us to be every bit as uncomfortable as you are. And hopefully when that happens, people can see that they do have empathy for this and what that story is.
Yeah. I think too, like, now, since having my second baby and really like being immersed in sort of female things and all of the female centered sort of issues that are circulating in the world right now, politically and otherwise, I am just really driven to be clear and honest about sort of the very normal, constant tension of being an adult human woman person and a mother. I can't not say some days my kid makes me so crazy I want to toss him out the window. And at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, if this child stops breathing, I will throw myself out the window. Like, I cannot. It's such a wild ride. And I think it's something that gets like a funny rap. It's too saccharine to talk about motherhood, or it's overdone, or it's boring, or I don't know. But it's a lot of things, I think. There's a lot of stereotypes about talking about it. And I just want to take that and like go in so hard that you can't help but listen. You know, like I want to show you that it's not boring, and that it's not only not boring, but it's so fierce and brave and terrifying every minute of my life. I just can't even tell you how terrifying it is to feel like half of yourself is like walking around out in the world and could be destroyed at any second, which is a crazy way to think, but it's true.
You are making truth be art.
Yeah, I hope so.
I've been very careful about how I've said things because I don't want to be flip. I don't want to come off being humorous because this is serious shit that we're talking about.
And also sometimes funny. So bad it's funny sometimes.
But you give us that chance to uncomfortably laugh at ourselves or at the situation. And in doing it through whatever medium you have chosen for that particular story, you stay true, giving that honest event, but it gives us a chance to read it and feel it and to determine how we are going to respond to it. And it's interesting too, because we've talked a little bit, you know, there's the male side of this, there's the female side of this. I think you give the male side a chance to actually feel and see what that is. Is that what you're going for? Or are you just trying to be that voice to tell that story of what's real?
I'm not sure.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's
fair.
I'm not sure. I mean, certainly I would always like for people that are not experiencing this particular role to understand more clearly what it's like. And I feel like that is beneficial from every walk of life, right? Like I'm telling this story because it's the story I know the best. It's the one I have the most information about. But just in the world, when I go see artwork, when I meet a new person, what I desire is closeness. And closeness comes with truth-telling, information, vulnerability, connecting. And I want to see that from everybody. And if I'm asking that of other people, then I just absolutely have to do it myself, or it means nothing.
You're visiting these themes, and they have a role in your history. How has that caused you to grow as an artist? Because that story's there. It is what it is. You are learning it. You are processing it. But then you turn to a medium and you write that story down in a way. How is that growing you as an artist?
That's a good question. I think that it is, I mean, I don't mean to make small of it, make light of it, but I think that it's just my way of learning, right? I think all the time about teaching my children to be brave. And sometimes what that looks like is like telling them, oh my God, I got an interview for a job I really want, and I'm terrified. I'm terrified of the interview. I'm terrified I'll get the job and not know what to do with it. I'm terrified I'll get into the interview and lose all my words, or that I'll go through the interview and they'll tell me they think I'm dumb. Like I tell them all the things I'm feeling, all the ways I'm scared. And then they watch me go like, and here I go. I got to go to my interview. See ya. I dress how I feel is going to make me feel the best. I do all the things, right? And then they watch me walk through it. They watch me push myself through the fear. They watch me survive it. I come home. I say like, I made it. I'm okay. Like, look at me. I'm still here. Whew, that was really scary. And like, we'll see. And then maybe I get the job and I get to celebrate, or maybe I don't and I get to show them that I'm really disappointed and sad. I think all of that honesty has a purpose. And part of the purpose is like gaining a thicker skin myself and growing from it and watching myself survive it and getting to do it again. And part of it is doing that for them, like watching them see in their heads like, oh yeah, it is important to walk through being uncomfortable. And each time we do that, we get better at it and braver at it. And then we're better at supporting each other through it too. I think it's really valuable when somebody tells you they're about to do something hard to have something to say about it. To go like, what does that feel like today? I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? What would you love to know that I'm lighting a candle and saying a prayer for you? Would you love me to call you when I know the interview is supposed to be done? I feel like it's a well-rounded way to do life, and I do feel like I'm growing from it. What can I lose if I'm telling my story and somebody doesn't like me for it? They
That's
were
on
not,
them.
we were not meant to be good to each other. We were not meant to be close, and I don't want that.
I think that's such a great thing, how you are raising your two children and how this honesty, this truth in life is right from the get-go. And we're going to have those uncomfortable times, and we're going to have those celebratory times, and we can't just be here for the easy stuff. Again, your art gives us a chance to learn that, which I just feel privileged to have been able to see some of it.
Thank you.
This question might be a little difficult because it's about objectiveness.
Okay.
The stories that you are finding, you are learning family history, you're finding out about people. How do you be objective, or do you feel you need to be?
I don't think I need to be. I mean, I don't know that that's a really good question. I don't mind that it's hard. I just don't know that I have the right answer.
That's okay. Because the other thing too, you've already admitted that, it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah. I think sometimes, I think it's right. I think it's human. I think sometimes I'm objective and sometimes I'm just not.
You mentioned the story earlier that you went back and said, nope, I wasn't being honest.
Yeah.
So you went from being subjective to objective, right?
Yes.
You determined that.
Yeah.
With that idea, do you feel that truth then can be subjective?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
It's like we walk in and we see a piece of art and we either like it or we don't.
Yeah.
And the person next to us may like it or they don't.
Yeah.
And that is true about truth.
Yeah.
They may like it or they may not.
Yeah. I mean, this is very well, I think this illustrates well how I've grown into being comfortable in the gray zone of life. I think I grew up in a system that was pretty black and white structurally. Not really personally with my parents, but in the community that I was in. Pretty black and white, lots of clear truths. And I just feel like I call bullshit on that really fast. I'm just more comfortable with the fluidity of life. I think as soon as we learn something, it's just not true the next day. Things change so fast and so constantly. And I guess there are some things, right? I was born on July 10th. That's just a truth, right? But I think when we get into narratives and people's experiences, it's so different. We learned that. I learned that with my siblings. There's 5 of us, and all of us will have a completely different story of the same experience.
I go through that with my own sibling.
Yeah, it's constant. Right?
Yeah.
Or with your partner or with your friend that you had a dinner with, everybody's having such a different way of taking the world in.
Well, and it's, we each have our own truth. This isn't about making alternative facts. There's a reality.
Exactly.
That my truth is my truth.
Right.
And that's it.
Totally.
But you've made an amazing art practice in doing that.
Thank you. It's really I have no choice is how it feels. I just can't not do it.
We had Rostin on talking about where he finds creativity. As an artist, what do we look to?
Yeah.
Picking inside his brain. You are looking at your own self, your own family, your own history that comes with that, good, bad, and indifferent.
Totally.
It almost feels that you have an endless source that you're kind of driven to get through.
It's true. That is such a good point. I mean, it's funny that you're saying this. I'm just thinking last night, I went into the studio working on work for a very specific show, and I thought I knew exactly what I was going to work on. And I found myself thinking about, this is so uncomfortable for me. I'm going to say it's so uncomfortable, but now I feel like I have to say it. So I'm at the beginning of a really early menopause, and I'm so not happy about it. And for lots of reasons. I mean, certainly it brings up like all of this, the personal struggle I had to get pregnant, but then also just like how the world feels about infertile beings, like aging, you know, all the things, right? It brings up all the things. And I'm instantly like, I need to do a memorial to bleeding. And I'm like turning tampons into stones on a necklace, you know, like, and I'm going to wear it around my neck, and it's going to be a memorial. And I'm going to have to say it's because I'm in this phase of life that I feel like is too early, too soon, too wrong. Like, I'm totally not into it. And what can I can't pretend like I'm fine, like, with it, you know? It's enveloping my thoughts. Like, I have to talk about it.
But here you are again, making art with the truth.
Yeah.
It's a reality. And when you share that story, how many people are going to relate?
Oh my God. I hope so many, right?
Well, we put our art out in the world. It's not always easy when it's not received the way we had intended. But I feel with yours, there's more opportunity to understand the story and feel a commonness to it or find empathy for it.
Yeah. Or hopefully, I mean, with this particular issue, I'm like, there's all these words I can think of that people, society, community, whatever, attach to menopause and this particular phase of aging. And what if I could say all of these things and surprise you with the fact that I'm in that? Do you know what I mean? Like, what if you hear the word menopause and you think like dry, old, tired, done, boring, whatever, right? And instead I'm like, but my life is still like wild and ferocious and full of young children. Like, I have a lot of life to live. And I'm also going to deal with like grieving this phase of my life that's passing, right? But like, I can do both. I can still go out dancing. I can still be, I don't know, very chatty with you and do this thing about art. Like, it's not real. It's an end to something, but it's not an end to everything. And I don't even feel that yet. Like, I'm saying that, hoping that I'll feel that way. Right now, I'm like, this feels terrible. But, you know, I'm hoping that it'll change. I'm hoping that by looking at it and also gathering people, right? Like, part of why I'm talking about it is like, I need company. Well, you know, I don't want to be alone in it.
I went through leukemia in my late 20s. And you're not supposed to be in your late 20s and have leukemia. I'm supposed to be an old guy when I get this, but that wasn't the case. And I learned through that process, similar to what you have done with your own self, with your art, is I talked about it. And people would be uncomfortable. But I think you are giving space to be able to be uncomfortable, but know that there's a conversation. And you can take part in this conversation. And, you know, there's a camaraderie that then happens because there's going to be somebody who goes, yeah, me too. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, a whole bunch of us.
It's not as if the aging process doesn't happen. And it's unfortunate that there are these ideas that it happens in a specific way. And then when it doesn't, we panic.
Yeah, because it flips our whole idea on its head. Right? Like that everything around us has been telling us. It's just not true. Or didn't tell us enough, right? We didn't know. We didn't have any information to go on.
I mean, if I listened to that type of truth, I would have never went to art school, ever. Yeah. I would have continued being a finance person and just going to an office 9 to 5. I'm not going to say it sucked the soul out of me. But if I had listened to everyone, I wouldn't be sitting here now doing what I'm doing, excited about it and art and everything else that comes with that.
Yeah.
Through all of the truths you have discovered, with all of the artwork that you've made, what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
I mean, I think I've learned so many, but I think for me, doing this work, in particular the last few years, where it's been like so much more full of storytelling, I think I've just learned that I think it's that I can't stop doing it. That I'm the most fulfilled when I'm being vulnerable and revealing to a point, and that like we all get through it. Like I don't see myself getting through things if I don't walk through them. And I don't believe that I'm truly walking through them if I'm not processing and saying it out loud.
Any other last thoughts that you might want to toss out? If not, it's okay, because I would like to jump over. You're going to be in a show that opens in November through December.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about this.
Yes. So part of a small collective of 6 women. The name of the show is Close to the Skin. And my work fits well in it because all of us are really talking about deep truths, deep, hard truths, things that it sprung from a sentence from one of the other women's kids when they were asked, like, help us brainstorm names for a show. And she said, a true thing that can kill you.
Whoa.
So the collective is called True Thing. And this show is Close to the Skin, and that's like what it is. I think of Close to the Skin as too close, right? Like, ooh, like it kind of makes you...
In your personal space.
Yeah, in your personal space, under your skin, makes the hair on the back of your neck go up a little bit because it's vulnerable. And I think we're all telling our own vulnerable stories. And it's a beautiful collection of work.
I can't really wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be at The Works in San Jose.
San Jose, yep.
It runs November 16th. Mm-hmm. We'll check dates, and you can check the notes for the episode and all of the details, and a link to the show will be there, as well as a link to Sydney's amazing work.
Yay. Yes, I'm pretty certain it's November 16th is the opening, and I'd love to see you there. And I believe it comes down the 21st of December.
Ooh, right before the holidays.
Right before the holidays.
When everyone's got so much time.
So crazy.
Sydney, thank you so much for joining me today.
God,
I appreciate you opening up and sharing your truth with us.
Oh, you're always so easy to talk to. Thanks for having me.
That wraps up another Iced Americano and this episode of Lattes and Art, presented by J2 We hope it's given you a deeper look at the artist's journey and the power of embracing vulnerability in creative work. Thanks to Sydney Brown for sharing her unique insights and process. Through her work, Sydney reminds us of the beauty in revisiting, revising, and continuously learning through art. If you were intrigued by this conversation with Sydney, be sure to check out her work and her upcoming show. The links can be found in the show notes. Thank you for joining us here on Lattes and Art. Please share our podcast with your friends and be sure to follow us so that you never miss a conversation. Until next time, keep creating, keep exploring, and keep seeking your own truth.